I recently moved to a small town just outside of Oklahoma City. I had just graduated from college and was looking for a quiet, rural place to set up store. The neighborhood I moved to was very quiet and peaceful. It was on a secluded road with only 4 houses and acres of farmland stretching outside. The neighbors were all very friendly. As a freelance writer, I didn't plan to stay in Oklahoma for long or go outside my home much. But I'm glad I moved to a safe neighborhood with people I can trust. Well, except for the weather. Growing up in the Midwest, I was no stranger to severe storms and frequent tornadoes. My neighbors said they were so used to it that they practically lived in their basements. Many said they immediately go downstairs as soon as they hear about a severe storm, even if it's not a tornado. I figured they were still recovering from the powerful tornado in 2014 and were more cautious about their safety and their belongings. I thought that was pretty reasonable, but like I said, I wasn't planning on staying here long, so I left everything where it was supposed to be. After a few weeks of settling in, a severe thunderstorm hit on Thursday evening. After a long day, I lay on the couch and watched the news. As expected, a severe thunderstorm warning popped up on the TV screen for my neighborhood. I looked outside to see how bad it was. Every minute or so, lightning flashed, followed by the usual roll of thunder. It seemed like we were on the edge of the storm and not much damage had been done. A few minutes later, a new warning sounded. It was a tornado warning for my county. Honestly, I was a little shocked as I didn't feel the storm was too severe. I was already tired and didn't want to get up to go downstairs. I've experienced tornadoes before and can usually tell when a storm is going to get more serious, but this was not the case. Nevertheless, I got up and stood at the top of the basement stairs to watch the TV. Half an hour later, the weather station gave the okay. I looked outside again. Sure enough, other than the wind and rain, there was nothing. Normally, I would have waited unless another big storm followed us, but I decided to get ready for bed. After all, I didn't think a minor storm could be followed by a major storm. The next morning, I woke up to the sound of sirens on my street. Was anyone seriously injured by the hurricane? I didn't think about the possible devastation, but I was curious, so I went outside. To my disbelief, a few houses away, 4 police cars and 2 ambulances were parked at the end of a dead-end road. The entire house was taped off, and a whole forensics team was already looking over the area. My heart raced as I met with some of the officers. They told me that a family of 4 had been brutally murdered in the basement of the house. I asked if it had happened during the hurricane. Some of them doubted it, given the tornado warning. But how could 4 people be dead for over 12 hours with no warning? I saw no signs of forced entry or signs of burglary. Local news stations covered the case, and many friends and other family members said how nice they were, how well they were represented at church, and they had no enemies as far as they knew. Certainly not the best way to settle into a new home. That same night, another storm, a more dangerous one, broke out. A tornado watch had been announced all day. And then a tornado warning came on the TV screen. I didn't go to the basement. I just lay on the couch, staring into space. All I could think about was murder. Questions swirled around in my head. Who could have done it? Why could they have done it? How did such a horrible thing happen in a nice neighborhood? Was there something I didn't know about? I felt involved, even though there was nothing I could do. A huge roll of thunder brought me out of my reverie. I felt such pity that I had no business fleeing the storm. I was in another storm, my own. It soon subsided. I went to bed again, but it was not until hours later that I was able to sleep. I had a terrible dream in which I attended a funeral of a relative. The atmosphere was completely gray. Those present were dressed in black, and everyone was in mourning. Suddenly, everyone started to feel dizzy and fell down dead. I was surrounded by bodies on the floor. When I woke up, I realized that it had all been a terrible nightmare. After realizing what had happened the night before, I went outside again to check for damage. Expecting to see a fallen pair of power lines, I watched with bated breath the same scene as yesterday. Police cars, crime scene tape, and a forensics team. This time through 2 doors. Family friends were watching. The woman was sobbing at what she saw, and her husband had his arm around her shoulders. I spoke again to the officers who had arrived on the scene. I asked what was the matter. He said a similar crime had been committed. He said the bodies had been cut beyond recognition, several bones broken, and one of them almost decapitated. As the bodies were being carried away on a stretcher, I noticed blood seeping through the white sheet covering one of the bodies. The relative who found the bodies told the investigator what happened when she went to visit them. I even saw some of the officers get agitated. It didn't make sense. 2 identical mass murders in my neighborhood. In the neighborhood I moved to for peace of mind. What are the odds? Suddenly it all made sense. Both incidents occurred during severe storms when tornado warnings were issued. I asked if there were any cases of people being killed in natural disasters. Nothing was found to that effect. I checked when there were other tornado warnings. The National Weather Service for our area found nothing except for yesterday's. I was confused. Was today's warning just a test? A false alarm? Had someone taken advantage of the supercell to commit these horrible acts? Today's storm was more severe, but no tornadoes were seen. In the evening, the warning came on the TV again. I read it to see what it was all about. Surely it was a test, or at the very least a tornado warning. Nope, a tornado warning, clear as day. I went outside to the backyard. It was cool and windy, but there was no sign of a tornado nearby. I checked the radar on my phone. There wasn't a speck of green in my town. Maybe the National Weather Service had pressed the wrong button. There had to be some explanation. I called the local service and told them about the possible error. They said no one had reported a tornado and the Weather Service hadn't seen a possible tornado on radar. Very strange. I looked at the horizon, and then it hit me. 2 murders, 3 doors down, 2 doors down. I got goosebumps when I discovered the pattern. Neighbors told me they practically lived in their basements. Some didn't even read the TV while waiting for a warning, just went underground when they heard the alarm. I ran to my neighbor's house, rang the doorbell several times, knocked hard, and even shouted their names. Nothing. I looked in the windows. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary. They usually left the back door open, so I rushed into the backyard. I saw a weather warning sounding on the TV. As I made my way downstairs, I came across something I wish no one had ever experienced. The scene was the most horrific thing I had ever seen. The couple was lying face up, corpses arranged parallel to each other, with no clothes on. The worst part, their skin had been completely stripped off, exposing muscle and tissue. It looked more like the work of the devil than a human being. Realizing that the killer could still be in the house, I ran out of the house and onto my property. Running out onto the porch, I called 911. When the police arrived, I was being questioned as a witness. I was sitting in the driver's seat of the police car, and my mind was racing. The policemen asked me how I knew something was wrong. I pondered whether I should tell them about the television warnings. It seemed I was the only one who connected the dots. No one but me had gotten those false warnings. Am I going crazy? Could this whole thing be a delusional dream? All I told the officer was that they hadn't left the house all day, and I was starting to worry. I didn't see any signs of forced entry. No broken windows, no footprints, not even a speck of blood. Is the killer still out there? There was not the slightest chance that a human being was behind it. I, visibly shaken, was recommended to see a therapist to try to recover from what I had seen, and told to try not to think about it. Obviously, I couldn't. I was furious. There was no way this could be passed off as normal. I scoured the entire internet looking for answers. I wrote to various chat rooms to see if anyone else in this world knew what I was talking about. I mostly got no answers or only got laughing emojis. Some people called me mentally ill, a troll, a psychopath. I knew it was all real. I thought it was a nightmare, but it wasn't. I saw it with my own eyes. Who did this? Why is this happening? Especially to me. I lay awake all night, feeling acutely sleep-deprived. But the thought of sleep never left me. My life flashed before my eyes as a tornado warning sounded on the television. I looked out the window. A clear sky. The sunrise was so unnaturally red. Blood red. I knew this was it. It wasn't a coincidence. Realizing it couldn't be real, I decided to finally read what the extra information under the title said. I usually didn't read the graphic because it didn't have any additional information other than what to do in the situation and where the warning applies. The same must have been true for my now deceased neighbors. My eyes widened. I felt as if I had been punched in the stomach. The cryptic message read, "A tornado has been spotted in your neighborhood. Aya. I am the storm wreaking havoc in your neighborhood. I am the rain, wind, thunder, and lightning. The safest place is no longer your basement. Better to kill yourself than face me hiding in your little basement. I am sent on a mission from hell to end all humanity. You will join me in the flames. See you soon. Sincerely, EF6. 3 doors down. 2 doors down, 1 door down. I was the next victim. And then I realized that I hadn't even gone into the basement during this whole fiasco. Scared beyond belief, I grabbed the biggest knife from my kitchen. I slowly made my way down the stairs to the basement. Each step felt like another step toward death. I peered around the corner, holding the knife at the ready. Nothing seemed out of place. I surveyed around in the nearly empty basement, trying to find a dark corner where someone might be hiding. Suddenly, I felt dizzy. My strength was leaving me. My heart was pounding. I fell to the floor, feeling as if the weight of the world was upon me. There was a high-pitched, shrill sound, like a radio frequency. All I remember hearing after that was a boom. It was followed by a momentary flash. The storm was right above me.